In the late 9th century AD, within the weakening borders of the Japanese Empire, whose authority over its provinces had crumbled, there arose a need for an iron hand to restore order and extinguish the flames of chaos. Thus, a new and unprecedented class of warriors was created. They were called the samurai. At first, this warrior class served as protectors of the nobles, who had broken away from the central government and formed their own armies to defend their lands. But it wasn't long before the samurai established themselves as an independent class with their own distinct principles. In the 12th century, with the founding of the feudal military government known as the Kamakura shogunate, the samurai transitioned from mere warriors and guardians to rulers in practice. They became the dominant force governing Japan for nearly 7 centuries. There's no doubt that most of us understand who the samurai were, among the ranks of the strongest warriors ever known in history. But how could these warriors, who emerged from seemingly nowhere, possess such power that enabled them to rule an entire nation? In this segment, we'll go back to the ancient schools of Japan to explore all the stages that led to the making of a samurai warrior. The samurai were raised on the teachings of Bushido, the way of the warrior. A moral code founded on principles such as honor is more precious than life, loyalty is stronger than fear, and there is no excuse for betrayal. From a young age, the samurai was trained to endure and remain silent through pain. He learned to wield his sword as if it were an extension of his own soul, never to retreat before the enemy, and to live by only 2 goals: to offer protection or to die standing on the battlefield. How were these warriors forged in the first place? A samurai, as a young child, would be taken and thrown into training schools, a human sword in the making. During their formation, the samurai underwent a comprehensive training system that combined various martial arts, spiritual and cultural upbringing, and the arts of leadership and strategy. And this system followed a precise structure. At the break of dawn, the trainee would head to the yard, carrying a wooden sword to begin kenjutsu practice, the art of using the katana in combat. He would begin with repeated and continuous strikes that developed arm strength and agility. After that, the trainee moves on to performing the kata, a prearranged sequence of movements executed alone or against an imaginary opponent. Its purpose is to refine the distance between fighter and opponent, the timing of attack and defense, and the fluid transitions from one stance to another. Once the trainee is ready for a real challenge, it's time for sparring, a form of practice combat where fighters wear light protective gear. This allows the trainee to adapt to real opponent's speed and sharpen their technique under the pressure of actual confrontation. With the completion of kenjutsu training, the trainee advances to studying Yaijutsu, the art of drawing the sword and striking in one swift, seamless motion. The training focuses on speed and precision. The trainee learns how to control body weight and maintain balance while drawing the sword, and how to transfer power from the hips to the sword arm in a fraction of a second. Movements are repeated slowly at first to master every detail, then gradually accelerated until they reach blinding speed. In advanced stages, Yaijutsu kata are performed in front of an imaginary opponent to test the trainee's ability to respond instantly from both seated and standing positions, enhancing their readiness for sudden attacks. Thus, the sword becomes an instinctive extension of their very being. Once mastery of swordsmanship is achieved, the trainee moves on to study Kyudo, the art of archery. Training begins on the ground, where the trainee learns how to handle the bow, renowned for its curved length, and how to adjust foot positioning and back posture before advancing to the stage of a full draw. Once the fundamentals are mastered, the trainee practices archery on horseback. He learns to maintain balance while the horse is in motion and how to release the arrow with extreme precision, even as the steed charges forward. After completing sword training, the trainee enters the dojo, the sacred space dedicated to the practice of Japanese martial arts. There he receives comprehensive instruction in jujutsu, the art of unarmed combat. At first, he learns the basics of falling and rolling safely to protect himself when thrown. Then, he trains in techniques that disrupt the opponent's balance, pushing, pulling, and shifting their center of gravity with precision and timing. From there, he progresses to throwing techniques, mastering how to bring an opponent to the ground using the hip or shoulder as pivot points of force. Next comes the exploration of grappling and submission techniques, which include ground holds, neck restraints, and joint locks. These develop the trainee's ability to fully control the opponent's body. The training of the samurai was not limited to swordsmanship and archery. It also extended to mastering long-range weapons to secure dominance in open battlefield combat. Training began with learning how to fight using a bow staff, nearly 2 meters long. The warrior practiced thrusts, parries, and spinning maneuvers to control and subdue opponents. Next came the naginata, a pole weapon with a curved blade exceeding 2 meters in length. It was used to deliver powerful sweeping strikes from various heights. The samurai learned side maneuvers, evasive footwork, and circling techniques to capitalize on the weapon's reach and create optimal attack angles. Deception was also part of the arsenal. One such weapon was the shuriken, hidden star-shaped blades with sharp edges, thrown with deadly precision to distract and disorient enemies before engaging in close combat. The samurai trained on specially bred warhorses, learning to ride steadily at full gallop, control different speeds, and execute sharp turns and evasive maneuvers mid-battle. This included spear and arrow attacks launched from horseback, a blend of precision, speed, and agility. All of this formed the samurai's combat training. But what about physical conditioning? The samurai incorporated a method known as hojo undu, meaning supplementary exercises. These were traditional training routines specifically designed to strengthen the body and enhance combat performance, particularly in martial arts like karate and ninjutsu. What made them unique was their reliance on simple tools. Among the most iconic of these exercises was the stone lock lift, a brutal test of raw power and grip strength. As seen in the image, this stone tool is actually the ancestor of the modern-day kettlebell used by professional athletes around the world. This ancient lock was and still is used in focused training exercises aimed at strengthening the grip, wrists, and forearms. It's lifted slowly from the palm or rotated in a spiraling motion to build wrist stability, ultimately enhancing sword precision. It also played a key role in explosive strength training, where the stone was swung in dynamic arcs, activating the hips, back, and arms in a full-body motion. Advanced drills included lifting the stone in a bottom-up position. One of the simplest yet most powerful grip-strengthening tools was the rice bucket exercise. A traditional staple in samurai conditioning, this drill involved plunging the entire hand into a bucket filled with rice grains. The trainee would then flex the wrist up and down against the resistance of the rice, forcefully open and close the fingers, or rotate the wrist in circular motions to strengthen the joints and tendons. Another essential tool was the chi-ishi, a stone weight with a wooden handle, swung in circular motions to develop the wrists, forearms, and shoulders, enhancing the warrior's ability to control weapons with precision. Then came the nigiri game. Ceramic jars gripped by the fingertips only while walking or performing combat movements. The makiage kigu was a deceptively simple device, a wooden stick with a rope and weight attached. The trainee would wind the rope up and down using wrist rotations. Lastly, there were the tetsu geta, heavy iron sandals worn during walking and kicking practice. These added resistance to every step, building explosive lower body strength, stability, and balance under pressure. This is everything you need to know about the combat and physical conditioning of the samurai. Now comes the final stage, military training and the study of strategy and battlefield tactics. Here, the samurai learned the art of siege warfare, how to set traps, gather intelligence on the enemy, and secure victory before the first sword was ever drawn. Even in choosing the location of battle or encampment, the samurai relied on astronomy and terrain analysis, determining with precision when, where, and how to move. But there was another side to the samurai's training. He was raised under the philosophy of Bunbu Ryodo, the way of the pen and the sword, a life that balanced strength and spirit, martial skill and inner wisdom. At the core of his soul stood the Bushido code, the moral compass of the warrior. It bound him to honor, loyalty, honesty, and discipline, teaching that a noble death was greater than a life without principle. The samurai would sit in silent meditation among monks, learning to conquer the fear of death and sharpen the power of thought and presence. Part of this inner cultivation included the arts. He practiced calligraphy and painting, read poetry and philosophy, and honed the mind like a blade. Even the tea ceremony became a sacred ritual, a meditative drill in patience, composure, and self-mastery. In the end, the samurai was forged from a rare blend, a body of fire and a soul of wisdom. And that's how the samurai warrior was forged in the ancient Japanese schools. This is everything you need to know about the hidden secrets behind the samurai's strength. It's worth noting that all of these practices and principles have been documented in multiple historical sources and academic references.